is Joe. What did you think of our lovely session tonight?
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Great. Well done, everybody. Some gorgeous stuff there. Yeah.
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 Well,
Powerful.
I hope we entertained you as much as you entertained us.
Well, absolutely. I hope I matched what I got back. I put it that way. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's great.
Great. Well
So
done.
we always give last word to our featured artist, and you're our
Mhm.
wonderful welcome featured artist tonight.
Thank you.
So yeah, so we're going to have last story from you, and then generally what we do is we stop the recording, but we'll have a chat in the cyber pub just for a few minutes afterwards. So
Okay.
I let you off for the last story of the night.
Oh, wow. I have so many stories that I feel like telling. So it's like, where will I go? Where will I go? Um, yeah, just wonderful. And I love the whole Gugan Barra stuff from St. Finbar. So I think I'm gonna end with a story. I was thinking of a funny story to end with, but it seems appropriate to end with a story about St. Columkill, famous saint from Donegal, who it's his the anniversary of his 1500th birthday just a few weeks ago. So there's a lot of focus on his life at the moment, and the stories of Colin Killer are just fascinating stories about him. That are and there's such a rich variety of them. And of course, he was reputed to have been the first infringer of copyright. Some people might know that story where he copied a psalter, and the monk wasn't so happy, and he ordered him to give it back, and he wouldn't. So he ended up going to war over it. And then he was so upset about causing the war, and his crowd won it, that he decided to head to Iona to banish himself from Ireland, and off he went. But I'm going to tell you this story because the first story I ever heard of Colin Kill. I had moved up to Donegal back in Wexford now, so that's about well a good over 20 years ago, and I heard this story on the radio, on RTE radio, and it was a nature program. It was kind of before Mooney Goes Wild, if you know his program. And this fella rang in to say, explain why there was no rats on Tory Island. Well, not the four-legged ones anyway. There'd be a debate up there about the two-legged ones. But anyway, we'll say nothing about that. Shh, they can't hear me, can they? But anyway, um, so the story goes, Columkill, the famous saint from Donegal, he went out to Tory Island to try and convert the locals. Because you see, now St. Patrick did a fairly good job, but when he got to Donegal, the wheels came off the wagon, so to speak. And he had a bit of bother over near Stranola trying to cross a river, and he gave up. And he said, that's it, I'm going on. I'm not going to bother with this place. Somebody else can come along later and do it. And that person was Colin Kill. And of course, he was born in Garton, so he was a local man. Well, over he went anyway, and he established a small little church there, and he was preaching, and the locals warmed to him, and they converted for the most part to Christianity. And there's still a streak of rebellion in them after all these years, but they joined up anyway. And of course, one thing about living on an island is the sea. And the sea can be treacherous and danger, but it also brings bounty. And usually after a storm, it sends bounty to the shore. And after a great storm had bashed the island for 2 nights, people went down to the shore, and there indeed a ship had hit the rocks, and the bounty was on the shore. But as they went through what had washed up, they found three bodies, two men and a woman. And they went and checked on the bodies and discovered that they were alive, just about. And they wondered what they should do. And they knew that Colin Kill was a healer, and that he knew all the secrets of the herbs that he brought from the mainland and that he found on the island. So they brought the three of them to Colin Kill. And Colin Kill, well, he nursed them and tended them and prayed with them. And after some time, their health began to recover, and they became strong again and were back on their feet. And they stayed on the island for some time, and they listened to Colin Kill, and in time, they too converted to Christianity. And well, after a time, and they had become part of life on the island, Colin Kill had a dream. And in the dream was whispered that they should go back to their own countries. They should go back to their own country and spread the gospels there. So Colin Kill put it to them. And although they were reluctant to leave, Tory, they decided that they would do that. So a boat was made and everyone gathered to send them off, and they wished them well and prayed for a safe journey back to their own land, far, far away. Well, after one night, a storm blew up the next day and it raged for 3 days. The people prayed hard that they would be safe, but after the boat appeared shattered on the shore, and there were the three bodies. And they prayed and hoped that they would be okay, but this time the sea wasn't so kind, and they had passed on. Well, they decided they should bury them, and Columkill said, "Well, why don't we bury them at the beach where they came on shore?" And they did. They dug the graves, and the three of them were given a Christian burial. But the next morning, the bodies had come reappeared above the ground. Now, this sent a ripple of fear through the locals because they had turned their back on the old gods and they thought, was this a message coming to them that they had done the wrong thing? But Columkill reassured them and they buried them again. But the next day, well, there they were again on the edge of the shore. Now, Columkill knew he needed to do something. And he knew that at the top of the beach there was a patch of land with good ground and that he would bury them there and they would be looking out over the sea. So he went to the man who owned a patch of land. Dugan was his name. And he asked him, could he bury their friends? And he said, of course, of course. So some of the others came and dug the three graves. And as they were digging the ground, Columkill took some holy water and he blessed the graves, consecrating the ground. And when he did that, the strangest thing happened, because out of the ground came rats, hundreds, thousands of rats. And they ran away from what powers that Columkill had, and they ran straight into the ocean and they drowned themselves. And from that day to this, you will not find rats on Tory Island. And when I was over there one day and I was talking to some of the older people, they told me a story of some lads who had working over in England, and one of them decided, we'll show them. And he bought a rat in the pet shop and brought it back. And when you go out to Tory, you'll come into the pier, and as soon as the boat docks, the bags start going up onto the pier, and his bag went up. And when they picked it up, well, the rat was dead. And that proved the point to the people. And the thing is, that piece of land that is there still, and the man is still in the family of the Dugans, if you can get a bit of the black clay, that will keep the rats away from your own house. And the thing is, you can go and ask for that clay and it'll be given to you to do the job. There's also a white clay from Garton, where Columkill was born, and there's a beautiful story about how that came about, but it's much longer. And if you have that clay, it'll protect you from fire and drowning and from sudden death. But you have to be given that as a gift, slightly different. So there's many wonderful stories about Columkill, well worth looking at. That's my offering for tonight. I hope you've enjoyed the stories. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
That was
Thanks, Maria.
just beautiful, Joe. And what a great way to end the night. And I think we've,
Oh, I have to tell you, I
yeah,
heard that story on the radio, and you were talking about Bealtaine. A few weeks later for Bealtaine, I was literally 2 or 3 weeks. I was in a day centre up in Carrigart. Was it Carrigart? Yeah. And I started introducing the story that I had heard this story, and this man says, "That was me." And I was there. He was sitting there. Bill was his name. I was like, "Oh well, then you better tell the story." And he says, "Oh no, 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 you tell it." And I did, and it was just wonderful to meet him. You know,
I
it's great.
I love how tiny Ireland is, you know.
Oh, I'm telling you, but he had only come home from Canada. He'd been living in Canada for years. I
Oh
can't
my God.
remember whereabouts, but he had come back to retire. And I went looking for him years later because I put that story in my book, Donegal Folk Tales, and
Yeah.
he had only passed away a short time before, so I never
I,
got to do it.
you
But
know,
there
I
you
have
go.
a firm belief he heard you from heaven then.
Oh, I hope so, and
Yeah.
hopefully tonight too.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it, you know. So Joe, we loved you. We have to
ah,
hear the next
great.
part of the Gill story. So you're going to have to come back at some
Ah,
stage.
there you go. There you go. Another
So
time.
delighted for that teaser.
Yeah.
Now I am actually going to turn off the recording. So let me do that.